Hello and welcome to PeopleGoal's weekly webcast where we discuss the latest HR topics to help you thrive. My name is Maddie O'Neill and I'm an HR growth analyst here at PeopleGoal. I'm also delighted to be joined by our head of HR growth, Chrissa.
Hello, Maddie. Thanks for the introduction. I'm very happy that we will do together this webcast.
Brilliant. Let's get started. So before we discuss our topic for today, we just want to draw your attention to some of our previous webcasts that we've done recently, which you may want to check out. You can have a look at these on our website, www.peoplegoal.com/resources/webcasts, or if you download the slide deck, you can click on one of these links. And we've talked about things from how to implement a new HR system to how to drive better employee engagement, check-ins, and how to create a feedback culture. So lots of interesting content there. We advise you to go and check it out. But moving on to, more importantly, our topic for today, we are going to be discussing employee onboarding and in particular, our best practices for remote employee onboarding. Obviously, since the almost overnight shift to remote working across the globe, HR departments have had to pivot very quickly to adjust to the new environment and ensure that employees who are joining new companies for the first time from home are supported through their journey. And I myself was onboarded remotely here at PeopleGoal, so it will be really interesting to share some of my experiences of this, as I'm aware of how strange it can be to meet a team for the first time on a Zoom call rather than in person, and having never met some of my team members. It has been a new way of working, but there are definitely some things that companies can put in place to support employees through this journey and make it a really useful and productive experience on both sides.
Yes, exactly, Maddie. Remote work is a powerful tool. It's an opportunity for employees to achieve better work-life balance, avoid exhausting commute and traveling costs of going to work. However, it sets some challenges for HR people in terms of onboarding, because the onboarding experience is a unique one and you cannot make bad impressions. So I think this is a very interesting contemporary topic, and let's see together how we can actually give our ideas on how to better onboard remote employees.
So today's webcast is going to look a little bit like this. We'll start off with an introduction to onboarding and the challenges that existed pre-COVID and in the post-COVID world as well. Moving on from that, we really want to get into the importance of employee-centric onboarding, and we'll discuss what that means later on. And we'll have a discussion of the benefits of running onboarding processes in this way. And I think that will be a really interesting discussion to have. And after we've covered that, we are going to look at actually what successful employee-centric remote onboarding will look like in practical terms and discuss some of our best practices throughout the cycle. And finally, as always, we'll finish up with some key takeaways and key points from our discussion. So first of all, let's understand together the current challenges and the old challenges of onboarding. So even pre-pandemic and pre-working from home, onboarding can be a fragmented and confusing process. There's many steps an employee has to go through, from HR checks to IT to introductions with their manager, with their peers, etc. And without really thinking about how the workflow will look, this process can be quite overwhelming for a new joiner. And one of the main reasons why it can be overwhelming is because the onboarding process is built around the process itself and not the employees. And what I mean by that is it's built in a way to enable these processes of ticking off the IT checks, signing up to the relevant systems, has been the priority. rather than the employees themselves and the employee experience. And we'll talk a bit about how you can change that around later on. Move forward a few months, the next year, and then we move to the remote working. And now that has exacerbated those challenges of just normal onboarding. And it is even more challenging now due to the lost communication, due to teams having to meet via video call or by a phone rather than in person, and also poor engagement. You know, a lot of us, it's been a struggle to adapt to the new challenges, to the new environment, and then having to take this additional task of joining a new team on top of that has been difficult. But there are definitely ways that we can remedy this, which we'll discuss later. And next, we just wanted to discuss some of the statistics on this topic, which are quite shocking, actually, that after onboarding, only 29% of new hires feel fully prepared and supported to excel. And moreover, only 12% of employees strongly agree that their organisation does a great job at onboarding. So that is less than a third in both counts, and almost 10% of people who are not happy with the processes. And you know, onboarding is a real vital moment where the employee will cement themselves with that company. They will decide to stay long term. They will decide to engage. And if it's not right from the beginning, as it currently isn't, that's going to cause a few problems down the line. So it's really important we look at these best practices to work out how we can fix this problem.
Great summarization of challenges, Maddy. And on top, unfortunately, it's difficult to achieve the same kind of onboarding experience when your teams work remotely. This often means that team members are thrown at the deep end and with no understanding of company culture or the role expectations that they need to adhere to. So if you are not careful enough, poor onboarding process can lead to a relationship with remote team members that feel completely disengaged and disconnected from the team. So let's see together what we can do and deal with this issue. So these are the 4 different benefits / drivers behind an employee-centric onboarding process. So with a sound onboarding process in place, you help the new employee understand better the job requirements in a very structured way and get a clear grasp and understanding of the role expectations. In the meantime, you help the employee to fully absorb into the organization, understand the company culture, learn the company rituals, values, and expected behaviors. Actually, migrate the company DNA into the employee. This is the culture assimilation. If you don't manage to do this effectively, then it's like having a foreign body within your company, and this can bring a lot of troubles. One of them could be even employee turnover. Moreover, with employee sending onboarding, you aim to have a better engagement. And the idea here is to create the magic moment where the employee decides to engage with the company. So this is where everything starts. The onboarding is your magic moment. If you lose this magic moment, then you will never have the opportunity to create it again. As we said in a funny way, remote onboarding is your only chance to make a good first impression. Finally, you improve productivity and tenure. It is proven that companies with a strong onboarding process improve employee retention by 82% and productivity by 70%. I believe these are percentages that makes everyone believe that an employee onboarding sending process is very important for the company success as well.
Absolutely. These are 4 really key points and 4 key reasons why we need to almost take a step back from our onboarding processes and think, okay, from an employee's perspective, what do I need from the company to achieve my role and to feel happy at work? So once we take a step back and we think, okay, with all our decisions that we're going to make sure that the employee is in the center, that the employee is the first priority, how they will be have the resources and training they need to do their role well, and also feel part of the overall organization. And once we achieve that, it's difficult, but once that is achieved, it really is a win-win situation. And like Chris has said, first impressions count, and that first impression that an employee gets in their first week is going to last. So definitely employee-centric onboarding is the way to go, and even more so in the remote environment.
So now we can see, what does employee-centric onboarding look like? So the first stage in the onboarding cycle is the pre-onboarding, and we need to understand the employee needs. So what the employee actually will have to do in order to excel during, let's say, the first 3 to 6 months in his role, as well as assimilate in integrate with the company. The second stage is the onboarding plan, where you actually break down the different steps that the employee needs to follow in order to learn job requirements, socialize with team members, and finally be a functional and performing employee. And third point is the onboarding success, where you actually want to get the feedback about your onboarding process and try to identify whether your onboarding process provides a smooth experience to the employee, or if there are any pain points in your process that you need to consider and further improve.
Brilliant. So that was our overall summary of an employee-centric remote onboarding process. And now we're going to take it step by step and really drill down on how to successfully onboard remote employees. So first of all, as Chrissa mentioned, the pre-onboarding phase is vital, and it is key to start this process before day 1. By the time the employee's starting their first day at work, it's too late to begin some of these processes. So this has got to start in the weeks, or if you're a very large organization, perhaps in the months before they join. And this will ensure that HR is prepared, the employee is prepared, and by the time that they start their job, they will be fully equipped with everything that they need. So some things that you might need to consider in the pre-onboarding phase is, one, you need to collect all employee data, be it contact information, be it references, everything that you need to set the employee up in the company. Next, you need to carry out compliance checks, any checks on their background that they need to require the role. These can be all completed in this stage. Once all of the data is collected and checks have been completed, it's also the time to send out any offer letters and final contracts to be signed and stored ready for their first day. Now, another point, a lot of those things will be covered by typical HR processes, but what is especially important in the remote environment is the company onboarding gifts and equipment. So equipment could be their laptop, their mouse, a webcam, and gifts could include things from company stationery, a branded mug, a t-shirt, maybe some snacks or some tea and coffee. And these are things, they seem quite small, but it's things that at home employees are missing, the perks of being in an office, and they're missing the office environment, which makes them feel connected to the organization since they're working at home, perhaps alone in a home office. or another situation like that. And having, before their start date, a package arrive for them which gives them everything that they need to complete their role well as a few treats, will really help them connect with the company, and will make their first week a lot better. And then the key players of this phase of onboarding, really is a joint effort between the HR departments, between marketing, who may be working on any of the company merchandise, etc., and compliance as well.
Yes, as you mentioned, Maddie, pre-onboarding is very important process. Actually, you take out all the tasks that need to be completed before the employee starts working for the company, and this way you give focus to the employee experience rather than all the different administrative and logistical tasks that need to be completed. So the pre-onboarding phase is a phase that needs to be completed in time. You need to make sure that you remain compliant in terms of collecting employee data for the different countries that different companies are operating, and also giving the employee documentation at the right time. You also give a very good impression about the company, that you are punctual, that you are organized, and this is a sort of expected behavior. Also with onboarding gifts and equipment, you give actually a sense of your company culture, and you give the idea, a sort of idea of the different traits that your culture is composed of. So about the onboarding plan. The onboarding plan, actually employee onboarding is a big task. And this is something that we can see from this diagram as well that we have. And you can easily, as an HR, you can easily forget a few steps in the process, especially if you hire massively. And so you need to have a sound onboarding plan in place and define the different steps that need to be completed in order to offer a very smooth experience to the new hire. So this is an example of an onboarding plan. We can see an onboarding checklist, and the onboarding checklist can include some tasks that the HR needs to complete in terms of compliance, contract, employee information, and any other documentation that is needed. The second step is the HR checks, where the HR will actually assign different participants in this process to complete their own checks as well. So for instance, we have the line manager, the administration checks, the IT checks, and then you can have the final step, the manager confirmation, taking the ownership that all steps have been completed. So this is a way to summarize the onboarding plan. Again, the key players, HR, IT, line managers, and of course, this needs to be adjusted to your onboarding plan and to the different steps that you need to complete in order to provide this new smooth experience to the new employee. Having a checklist is always a good idea, and having different participants, different actors working together in a collaborative manner will better provide a smoother experience. So again, within the onboarding plan, there's also a very important aspect on the job training, and you need to provide the necessary material, training, documentation in order for the employee to start adjusting in his role. In addition, it would be a great idea if you share with the new employee policies, procedures about the company and about the way you would like the employee to behave, and also actually try to instill the company values. Finally, implement welcome calls with the team and run one-to-one check-ins during this process, during the onboarding plan, to make sure that the mechanism is working right and the employee is getting a good experience, having a good onboarding experience. So the third pillar, remote onboarding success, which is also the final step in our cycle, in our onboarding cycle. You need to assign a buddy. A buddy program is a great way to help the new employee learn his role. Having a mentor telling you what to do and how to do it is very important. And you are also socializing the employee. He's not left alone. Also, you can run a new joiner survey after 1 month, after 3 months, and after 6 months, and try to capture the different feedback that you receive from the new hire throughout this period. You can collect the responses and you can analyze the responses to see also if you need to make any improvements in your onboarding experience. Finally, you need also to have regular check-ins. Given the remote working environment, we don't have the luxury as we did in the past to just knock on a door and jump to an office, have a short discussion, and go back to our office. So we need to have regular touch points to check in with hires throughout their onboarding journey, and also try to create a communication line with the new employees. So key players here, everyone, HR, managers, peers, the new employee. So everyone is involved here.
So our key takeaways from this week's webcast about remote onboarding is, first of all, to center the process around the employee. It's really important to put yourself in their shoes, especially when they're often working on their own in the remote environment, and to think about the kind of things that they need to support them to carry out their role to the best of their ability. The second thing to really drill down on is the pre-onboarding phase, which is perhaps the most critical point of onboarding, in the sense that it often goes forgotten. And if you implement a sound pre-onboarding phase where you think about the employee needs, they will be ready for their role before day one. So this is something often that can be left to the side, but we will. It's really important to drill down on this. Next, it's really essential to have a clear onboarding workflow and to chart each step through the cycle and have the relevant parties and players weighing in to make sure that the journey is very streamlined. And finally, as we have just been talking about, it's really essential to check in regularly with new hires. Onboarding doesn't finish after their first week, after their first month. In some cases, onboarding can continue to the first year of the employee being with a company. So establishing those regular check-ins via touch points with their buddy, with HR, through one-on-one meetings, and by gauging engagement through new joiner surveys, you can really keep your finger on the pulse of these new employees and make sure they're not feeling lost, or that they don't have the tools that they need to carry out their roles.
Yes, so just to conclude, onboarding is a topic that sometimes is not given the attention that is required. However, it's the most important and critical step in the employee journey. It's the first impression that counts, as we said. And now, given the remote working environment, we don't have the opportunity to create a good experience through communication. So we need to create a good experience with structure, information, engagement, and involvement. And that's why we have created this deck, just to make sure that you know the right way to onboard your remote employees in the future.
Definitely. And we really hope that you'll be able to use some of these tips and best practices to create that magic moment for your new hires, where they feel welcomed, they feel ready to start their new role and excited about their future with the company. So that's all from us in terms of content. If you would like to get some more PeopleGoal insights, feel free to download the research slides, to check out our previous webcasts at peoplegoal.com/resources/webcasts, and connect with us on Twitter and LinkedIn at PeopleGoal. And some further resources on this topic, if you are currently designing your remote employee onboarding journeys, feel free to have a look at some of the articles we've published on this topic. For example, remote employee onboarding, 5 ways to inspire from day one, 10 hacks to improve remote employee onboarding, or must-have checklists for remote employee onboarding. Finally, want to suggest a topic or be a guest in one of our upcoming webcasts, email me, maddie.o'neill@peoplegoal.com. Thank you very much, Carissa, for joining me today. It was a pleasure discussing these topics with you. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, Maddie.